This is a mini video with Masters of Influence quality. Leave your comment and it is very important for us. And if you liked the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy! Look, we all have our beverage preferences. Some of us like a little fizz and sugar to wash down our daily existential dread, and that's fine. But have you ever stopped mid-swallow to ponder the corporate titans battling for your taste buds? Coca-Cola and Pepsi, two names synonymous with sugary satisfaction, but behind their cheerful branding lies a century-long slugfest of manipulation, corporate espionage, and enough shady business practices to make your dentist weep. This isn't just about soda, folks. It's about power, greed, and the lengths these companies will go to for global domination. Buckle up, because we're diving into the fizzy underbelly of the cola wars, where the only thing more shocking than the sugar content is the truth. Our story begins, as so many terrible things do, in the American South. It's 1886, and John Stith Pemberton, a pharmacist and Civil War veteran, is whipping up more than just your average cough syrup. No, this guy, bless his heart, is brewing a concoction he claims can cure headaches, fatigue, and probably impotence if you squint at the label right. And the secret ingredients? Oh, just a little something called coca leaves and cola nuts. Now, for those of you who haven't brushed up on your late 19th century pharmacology, that's right, we're talking about the OG recipe containing actual cocaine. Back then, cocaine was about as regulated as a game of children's t-ball, marketed as a cure-all for everything short of a broken heart. But as Coca-Cola's popularity exploded, so did questions about its addictive nature. Were they transparent about the, shall we say, energizing effects of their beverage? Or did they capitalize on a nation unknowingly hooked on their product? Hold on to your hats, folks, because it's about to get a whole lot worse. Now, enter Asa Griggs Candler, a man who saw the potential of Coca-Cola not just as a beverage but as a goddamn empire. And much like a certain emperor with a penchant for fiddling, Candler wasn't afraid to let things burn to get what he wanted. Through a series of business deals that would make even the most morally flexible CEO blush, Candler seized control of Coca-Cola, and thus began his reign of corporate terror. We're talking shady acquisitions, strong-arming suppliers, and enough legal maneuvering to make your head spin. If you were a competitor back then, you didn't want to see Candler coming because by the time the dust settled, you'd be lucky to be left with the shirt on your back, assuming he hadn't managed to trademark that too. Candler wasn't just a businessman, he was a force of nature, a hurricane of capitalist ambition, and he was about to unleash his fury on the world. Now any good magician knows the power of a good illusion, and Candler was a master of misdirection. He spun the tale of Coca-Cola's secret formula, locked away in a vault, known only to a select few. It became a marketing masterpiece, this aura of mystery and intrigue. But was it really about protecting the recipe? Or was it about protecting the brand from the inconvenient truth about its past? Because let's be honest, rumors of addictive substances and shady ingredients followed Coca-Cola like a bad smell. Whistleblowers whispered, journalists investigated, and yet the company remained tight-lipped, hiding behind carefully crafted legal defenses and PR spin. Was this a deliberate strategy to keep the public hooked? I'll let you be the judge, but I wouldn't trust a company that sells sugary beverages as far as I could throw them, and I can throw a can of Coke pretty far. Chapter 4. But just when Coca-Cola thought they had the world by the sugar-coated throat, a challenger emerged from the fizzy depths. In 1898, Caleb Bradham, a plucky pharmacist with a dream and a penchant for alliteration, introduced the world to Pepsi-Cola. Now I'm not saying Pepsi is a saint in this story. They've got their own skeletons in the corporate closet. But compared to the Machiavellian machinations of Coca-Cola, they were practically Mother Teresa with a marketing budget. But competing with the 800-pound gorilla of the beverage industry is no walk in the park. Pepsi faced bankruptcy, sabotage attempts that would make the CIA blush, and enough legal challenges to make even the most seasoned lawyer reach for a stiff drink, preferably not made by Coca-Cola. However, like a caffeinated cockroach, Pepsi just wouldn't die. They clawed their way back, fueled by a potent mix of innovation, grit, and a healthy dose of, we'll show them attitude. Chapter 5. And then, just when you thought things couldn't get any spicier, the world decided to throw a global economic meltdown into the mix. The Great Depression hit, and while most companies were boarding up their windows and praying for a miracle, Pepsi saw an opportunity. You see, while Coca-Cola was busy clinging to their premium image and even more premium prices, Pepsi went full populist, launching their iconic twice as much for a nickel campaign. It was a stroke of marketing genius, positioning Pepsi as the beverage for the everyman, the working stiff, the folks who were struggling to put food on the table, let alone afford a fancy bottle of Coke. And let me tell you, it drove Coca-Cola absolutely bonkers. They were losing market share, their image was taking a hit, and all Pepsi had to do was offer a little more bang for your buck. Chapter 6. Now you'd think that faced with such a challenge, Coca-Cola would have upped their game, innovated, maybe even, dare I say, lowered their prices. But no, that would have been far too logical, far too ethical. Instead, they decided to stick with what they knew best: good old-fashioned corporate bullying. Coca-Cola went on a contract signing spree, locking down exclusive deals with suppliers and distributors, effectively cutting Pepsi off at the knees. It was like inviting someone to a duel and then proceeding to hamstring them before the first shot was fired. Pepsi cried foul, accusing Coca-Cola of violating antitrust laws, but to no avail. Coca-Cola, with their army of lawyers and their deep pockets, managed to wriggle out of every accusation, leaving Pepsi with a bad taste in their mouth that had nothing to do with their formula. And then, just when you thought the world couldn't get any more chaotic, World War II exploded onto the scene. Now, you might think that in the face of global conflict, these corporate titans would put aside their differences and focus on the greater good. And if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you, and it's conveniently located right next to the Coca-Cola bottling plant. No, instead of burying the hatchet, Coca-Cola saw a golden opportunity to combine patriotism with profit. They struck a deal with the US government to supply American troops with their sugary beverage of choice, effectively turning G.I. Joe into a walking, talking Coca-Cola advertisement. And it wasn't just about boosting morale, it was about conquering new markets. While Pepsi struggled to stay afloat, Coca-Cola was busy planting their flag, and their bottles, in every corner of the globe, their logo becoming synonymous with freedom, democracy, and the American way. It was a marketing masterstroke, cynically exploiting a global crisis for their own gain. Chapter 8. The post-war era saw the cola wars escalate from a petty squabble into a full-blown advertising arms race. Coca-Cola, flush with wartime profits, bombarded the airwaves with images of wholesome families, smiling children, and idyllic Americana, all conveniently accompanied by an ice-cold bottle of Coke. They weren't just selling a drink, they were selling a lifestyle, an aspiration, a sugar-coated version of the American dream. But Pepsi, ever the scrappy underdog, wasn't about to let Coca-Cola win the hearts and minds of the American consumer without a fight. They realized that they couldn't beat Coke at their own game, so they did what any self-respecting challenger would do: they changed the game entirely. Pepsi ditched the wholesome family shtick and went straight for the jugular, targeting the younger generation, the rebels, the ones who weren't buying what Coca-Cola was selling. Chapter 9. And then came the knockout punch, the moment that sent shockwaves through the Cola Wars, the Pepsi Challenge. This wasn't about marketing, this wasn't about image, this was about the one thing that truly mattered: the taste. Pepsi set up blind taste tests across the country, daring people to choose between an unmarked cup of Coke and an unmarked cup of Pepsi. And the results? Well, let's just say they weren't pretty for Coca-Cola. People, it turned out, actually preferred the taste of Pepsi. The unthinkable had happened. The king had been dethroned, and the crowd was going wild for the taste of the underdog. Coca-Cola was left reeling, their aura of invincibility shattered. Chapter 10. Now, if you thought Coca-Cola would take this defeat with grace and dignity, you clearly haven't been paying attention. No, they panicked. They did what any rational, multi-billion-dollar corporation does when faced with a setback. They made a series of increasingly questionable decisions that culminated in what can only be described as a marketing disaster of epic proportions: New Coke. The idea was simple. If people prefer the taste of Pepsi, let's just make Coke taste more like Pepsi. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything, as it turned out. New Coke was a flop of titanic proportions. People hated it. They protested, they wrote angry letters, they even switched to drinking water. Which, let's be honest, is probably the most sensible thing anyone has ever done in this entire saga. Coca-Cola was forced to backpedal faster than a politician caught in a lie, bringing back the original formula under the moniker Coca-Cola Classic, as if to imply that this whole new Coke debacle was just a bad dream. Outrote. So, there you have it, the Cola Wars, a century-long saga of corporate greed, ruthless ambition, and enough sugar to give a dentist nightmares. And the crazy thing is, it's still going on. Sure, the tactics have changed, the battlefields have shifted, but the war for your taste buds rages on. Next time you crack open a can of Coke or Pepsi, take a moment to remember the battles fought, the lives ruined, the sheer amount of corporate shenanigans that went into that fizzy beverage you're about to consume. It's enough to make you want to swear off soda altogether. But hey, at least it's not boring, right? Subscribe for more shocking business stories and untold truths. This is a mini video with Masters of Influence quality. Leave your comment, and it is very important for us. And if you like the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. See you soon!